All right, here we go again. Buckle up. Rough roads ahead. We'll try to smooth out those rough roads. So it's metaphysics. It exists in a certain way. I'm sure there's people that are liberal that curse people to be certain things or will them to be certain things. Sexually, sometimes that could be a turn on for some people. Right. I brought that up before. So I know some of that's going on. But again, naturally, again, you can be conservative and cause people to be trans. Yeah, but for the churches, or not but for the churches, but for God, I could be trans because I know what they're trying to do to me. Right? Government people try to make me trans at a certain point. Uh, but I can read it. I'm a psychic. It's obvious. I'm probably the most proven psychic on the planet, regardless of what they say. But the churches, like if the churches would have stopped and let me have a church life, no, that'd be a great big protection against becoming trans. So again, just them taking money from the deep state, and the deep state is PIs, cops, criminal enterprise in the community. Your church may be affiliated with certain crimes in your crime organizations, your community, but they believe it's okay because they're corrupt. And we find preachers into all sorts of stuff. But here's an example: just by malfeasance or misfeasance of a church, you can end up making somebody available to become trans versus living a church life. And of course, now there's trans church life, and there's nothing wrong with that. Again, that's the better option. Again, you have to learn how to triage all this. Paul designed triage in the things that he said. He designed bracketing, and he designed triage within what he said. But there are people like the conservative people in my workplace wanted me gay, wanted me liberal. Well, because they're nuts. Like I was going to be the marshal. Like I was their competition. They're crazy. And I don't know if they ever became the marshal or not. Actually, coming against me may have precluded them from becoming the marshal. In the end. But it's the kind of shit that's in their head. Oh, I was going to go to headquarters and be an inspector. I was already being killed by the deep state, and it includes the CIA, present, former, and there was no way that I was ever going to be anything. And they should have been able to see it. And just because I worked hard, I never got anything for working hard. I mean, if they would stop and look around, they'd say, well, they may have woke up. Well, because this guy didn't work hard, but he was like an ass kisser, and he got 5 days off a year for just kissing ass. Rick Henry. Look at the awards they got. I didn't get anything. I got 1 day off when I worked a slew of weekends and Martin Luther King Day. Because I remember we had a black marshal, McKinney. It was Martin Luther King, and I was in there with my daughter Diana. I don't know if I was with my other daughter Lizzie. I can't remember. My daughter Diana was in there, and I was working on that prison package. We were trying to get a detention center in Maryland, near Baltimore, and we're working. It was presented. The final product was presented in a visual presentation, a visual audio visual presentation to House members, U.S. Congress. Right. But I was working on that, and it was Martin Luther King Day, and Marshall McKinney was in there working on Martin Luther King Day too. And he came, and my daughter saw him. It was just neat little interaction. Then it was that. But again, it's just funny. I got other people getting $500 or something like that. I get a day off, and I was a junior guy, but I probably did the bulk of the work. Or I know I did the bulk of the work. So again, I'm the guy that's going to be an inspector at headquarters or the marshal, right? I still haven't achieved the equality of being an equal coworker, and somehow that's going to happen. And I'm talking about after like 10 years in the government, in civilian government. 2 years, or actually more than that, because I had been 2 years in the. So it's probably like maybe 11 years. Just right before that was the sentiment right before I left. So again, that probably came from the CIA and the spycraft operators. They called it the othering when they spoke about it in the Palestinian, when they did it to the Palestinians. They make them the other, right? But that's spycraft. And they said Tamimi came along and she was no longer the other. So again, if you were moving spycraft like that for 15 years while you were trying to put Olmert in prison, then who knows when it's going to go away? Because we speak about the Jews being the other now. Again, remember, read the scripture. Even though I'm Jewish, I have to deal with that. Because that's how Hashem works. And it doesn't mean that Hashem wants to hurt me. Again, I'd have a life where it wouldn't even matter. And that's what's going on. Netanyahu has a life where it doesn't matter. Other people have a life that doesn't matter. Now, they're prosecuting Netanyahu. I'm just not sure about what the angle is there. It may be that he actually has to keep going and harming Palestinians and taking over territory, or they'll convict him. Could be. Just hanging over his head. He may be walking around going, if I don't do this, then I go to jail. But again, the deep state is such a thing. And again, they would have psychologically manipulated him over the years where he would not take that chance. Because again, what's the other option? He goes to jail, they poison him, he's dead. Or he's in jail, somebody knifes him and he's dead. Right. So again, for him, the stakes are bigger than just going to jail. And of course, there's home detention. I think most of Olmart's was home detention, if not all of it. Right. But I believe if you're serious, because I don't believe you were serious before, you could design a security system that would not allow rockets. And in essence, though, the split and the ostracization of one another, that's what enabled the rockets. Because if Palestinians lived in Jewish areas en masse, like an equal mixing, Hamas would be thrown out in a second. Again, the othering is partly what did it. So if you're doing that, you make the other person the outsider, the other, you actually make them the stranger. That's an interesting take. Hashem, I'm sure, just put that in my head. You actually made the Palestinian the stranger. You psyoped them to be the stranger. Now, I don't know if the reporter that put that in there understood that, what they were saying. But they knew that was being done. They were trying to make the Palestinian the other, the outsider, the stranger. So now you're the stranger. You see. See, I am that guy in the Bible. I am that guy in the Torah. Because who is that guy? Actually, Hashem. Hashem actually puts this in my head. I don't take credit from Hashem. I never do that. A lot of people take credit from Hashem. Hashem does something for them and they go, I'm not great. No, there's a lot of Jewish scripture in, the Torah, the oral Torah, the Mishnah, the Talmud. You look in there, and it has a lot of obligation about not doing such things, to be careful about it. Again, even if they look like the stranger, if it's an appearance of them being the stranger, you're not sure if they're a stranger or not. Just they got some orphans over there, you got some widows, got some stranger in going on. I wouldn't even go near it like the way you all did. Yeah, I'd have been a hell of a rabbi. I'd have been fun, huh? I might even have ended up in Mossad, I guess, as a rabbi. or Shin Bet. I didn't know what Hashem was doing. It just got strange. Actually, at a certain point, this sheriff's deputy who was on me and crazy, and I was thinking, you know, it's a form of corruption. And I just ignored him. I was doing yoga with his wife, and then his wife was in my yoga class, and he was in my gym, and he used to say shit to me all day long, and I'm just like, every so often, and he's like, well, my coworker here thinks that that's okay for him to have sex with 21-year-olds or some shit like that. I'm like, yeah, I'm just like, kind of leave me out of it. It's not any place I go in conversation in the gym, right? But what happened is right before I left Naples, I was in the gym and he had grown this really long beard. I don't know if he was uncover or what. So I don't, again, I don't know what was up with that dude. But apparently he wasn't working for them anymore, and he's type of guy that, could get himself in trouble. And he told me that he was doing Torah study, and again, it may have been an attempt for them because they were trying to radicalize me the whole time, sexualize me and radicalize me. I wasn't sure whether it was an attempt to radicalize me or not, because he had essentially he had become a Zionist, like an ultra conservative Zionist. He said I grew up and he had like Buddhist writing on him and stuff like that. He had tattoos, lots of tattoos. He had all this Buddhist writing. And I'm thinking, I don't know what this dude's up to, but he either became ultra radicalized Zionist or he was trying to make me that. Trying to get me to go to Israel at that point. And again, if Hashem tells me to go to Israel, it has to be within a certain window where I don't go. Same thing with Philippines, same thing with Thailand. Because again, you're all setting something in motion to do me dirty. But he said that's it. He may have actually gotten divorced too, if it were real. I can't remember all the things he said. And he was going to go to Israel, and that was it. And he's going to embrace his Jewish heritage and become an ultra-conservative, Ben-Gvir with a beard. So again, it would have been interesting to finish investigating that, but I needed to go. I agree there. Actually, I think it was before I got injured even. Thank you, Marsh. Well, they'll look at me trying to go to Tel Aviv, then try to figure out how to use it corruptly. Instead of allowing me free just thought to get to Tel Aviv, in reality, if they were right in the mind, they would have presented an apartment that would have worked for me, and I would have went, and it would have been real smooth and easy, and I'd been there. Right? Again, there's people in the CIA that know what was used was corruptly used. That traditionally, somebody like me that was willing to heal and help the world would have at least they would have made it so I could get somewhere safe and have a good life with a woman somewhere. Right. And then Israel would have been a great place. Tel Aviv would have been a great place. Well, I believe it was like 2007, maybe 2006, 2007, when I was looking to go to Tel Aviv, which means this: it was before I helped Omar, so it was setting me up to help Omar, but from Israel. And again, maybe Mossad was setting me up to be in Israel, so I'd be afraid to help Omar because they come in and mess with me, right? So again, that's that willpower, the will, right, that moves before you actually even move your will. There's no time and space in the metaphysical. So all the energies right now are competing. All the energies of this existence for all time. And again, the further you get away from this time period, this moment in time, the less influence something has. But like a millionaire from 100 years ago probably still has influence in what we're doing. And that could ebb and flow based upon how we value money versus something else. Yeah, I'm that guy in the scriptures. See, now like when I speak, if you apply it to the scripture, now you know some of the information about why the prophets did what they did, why they said what they said, why didn't they say something different. Right. I got a little bit of a sinus actually headache. Last night my sinuses started dripping. I don't think it's an infection. It's not acting like an infection. I just have postnasal drip. Part of it is I have to get in here and do a spring cleaning. I'm getting close to that. That's what I actually did before I figured out I had COVID. I started cleaning everything. Like, whoa, I got to clean this place. And then I came down with COVID, and that was it. So I can tell you their curses. One of their curses is to make sure that maybe my place is dirty. Like when in military, you go into places and they're or not military in law enforcement. You go into places that are trashed, and I didn't know anything back then. But Hashem showed me how they curse my place, how they make places dirty. And certain cursed people have dirty places, and they get off on it, man. I mean, people in law enforcement are just sick. They want to walk into a dirty place if they don't like the people. Right. Regular. Yeah, I have no support in my shoes. For some reason, I thought I did. Stupid me or silly me. Well, we need to purchase things. I don't know what kind of money you have, but we need to start do the initial phase right now, like because we might get rid of Elon and be able to spend money again. Trump wants to spend money. Trump's with me. I know we got to get rid of him, Trump. He won't let us spend money. So it doesn't cost anybody. See, I was good for this one. I used to do this in the military and law enforcement. I'd research stuff. So start the initial phases. Make your phone calls. Call that guy that does the armored airboats. Just call him and see what, have him send you information if he has a presentation. Right. Or maybe even go out there and talk to him. Right. Go see what he's got on hand if he has anything. Because sometimes small operations won't have anything on hand until they get the investment. Then they have some stuff on hand for a while, and then they move it to the purchaser. But I think we need to get he seems to be the only guy I saw, but he seems like somebody we need to get to know. He shows a big one and smaller ones that he built. So now we just need to get away from it. It's like at a certain point we need to replace the airboats we have with armored airboats. Again, he can build them so they don't look so scary. You can make them whatever color you want. Again, I would keep them a dark color, a subdued color. I mean, cops even do that now on their sedans and SUVs and everything else. Right. So just start all the initial phases. All the equipment you would like. MRAPs. Start source it. Call Mr. Hegseth. You got to be a hands-on guy. I'll show you ethos. Find the MRAPs, Hegseth. Where are they at? That's really what good military people do. They find things and put it together for the larger battle. I mean, that's what Desert Storm. We're sitting there. I don't know. I think it was after G-Day. But I'm sitting there, and Sergeant Cuevas walks over and gives some squad leader in the infantry a bunch of C4. He hands Sergeant Cuevas some grenades. That's the U.S. military. That's the history that we need to recreate. No, we weren't going to do anything corrupt with it. We were just going to fight wars. I think we had extra grenades, which was really good. We didn't have enough grenades, and he didn't have any C4. So it worked out well. We got some extra grenades. They gave us like a low number. I actually I did it. I think I grabbed some Russian grenades or something. I think I grabbed some Russian grenades to even get so we'd have a higher number. We didn't end up using them all that much. We thought we were going in. We thought we'd go in the Bosphorus and everything else. So I grabbed some grenades. We actually had already had extra grenades from the trade deal with the infantry. But I remember, did we throw one? I think we did throw one Russian grenade. It wasn't that impressive. And, Putin remembers, I'm sure, the history of Soviet munitions. They actually had to have wax pellets between the firing pin and the mine initiator, because sometimes they would simply arm it and it would blow up. So the wax pellet gave them like 5 minutes or so, whatever it is, I can't remember the time, to get away from the mine before it maybe self-detonated. So it would, the weight of that firing pin and the pressure would eventually eat through the wax pellet, and it would arm, or it would detonate, accidentally detonate. Well, that's how I knew we were going to win when I found that out. I'm like, oh, we're doing pretty good. Not that we're so good, but their stuff's so bad. And again, that's the idea of not having a free economy. Right. And that's what happens. But they had some problems recently. Again, it may have been CIA's come back in it. I don't know. Well, they found out their munitions weren't working as well as they thought. Right. Which is strange, because that used to be the Soviet problem. So but they were actors. I mean, what they lacked in actual munitions, they made up in role play and ruse and banging their fist on the table. Yeah, I probably have more in common with kind of Vladimir Putin than most people in the world. I mean, not just Vladimir Putin, but the Cold War era people. Right? We're just different. Right. But I'm the American side, and he's the KGB side. So again, let's do the footwork or the groundwork, or you can just even receive like just mailers, or I guess it's emails nowadays or whatever. But just get all your information together, get your facts and figures, know how much money you need for. Again, there's nothing wrong with buying one a year if that's all you're gonna. If that's all they allow you to buy, that's what you buy. Don't be discouraged. And if they let you buy, because if you buy one and it saves someone's life, then they're going to get you 10. So you got to work it into your system so you can have it. Again, initially. I believe BORTAC patrols, and BORTAC looks pretty busy, and so does BORSTAR. So I don't think it's like this. I don't see them as like a SWAT team sitting on the side waiting to get called. So I don't think that's who they are. I think they're operating Border Patrol agents that happen to be part of this team, and they operate as that team, but they're doing work every day. So you may, again, they would when that'd be a good unit or people to give it to test. But I wouldn't. Don't designate a special ops vehicle. We want an armored airboat for everybody. Right. I'm really just beside myself thinking I couldn't think of it when we were purchasing them. And again, I'm in your mind whether you want me there or not. Thank you, Larry. Nah, it's an oversight. It's a scary oversight. That just shows you the power of the cartel. Well, because there's no way we should buy an open air airboats and have was it 2 agents per boat or something up and down the river, open like that. Because the paradigm can change in a second, and it slightly did. I'm not ready to say that we're really at that level that we're going to see, any large number of casualties, but there's already threats, and we're already moving in that direction. So again, it's just, that's what did it. The cartel's cursing us, and we couldn't see. Like I couldn't get the physical therapy, you couldn't get the airboats with the cab. But now that I can get the physical therapy and I can think through it, now there's TB in all of with TB all over this area. If I go to massage therapy, that's a little dangerous to do. Again, it's going to hurt massage therapy, and I'm hoping massage therapy didn't make a deal with the devil and decide to operate me, because that could cause that TB to exist too. That could partially power it, and that would affect people coming in for massages. I find it strange that I heard nothing about tuberculosis more than 3 weeks ago, but I'm told it's here since January 24th or January of 24. Right. And, so that may denote that something's happened recently that's actually the causation of it. You can't let these people do this stuff. You got to, got to protect my life. I mean, you owe me to begin with. If you think I'm a criminal, then you're a liar. That's for sure. So you're saying that Starlink can do it for 10 times less, right? But we can't give everything to Starlink. Do you understand that? Maybe that's why you can do it for 10 times less, because they subsidize you on the other hand all day long. So remember that. You can do it for less, 10 times less, because your whole all your corporations have been subsidized by the federal government. Right. So I'm glad, but it's kind of weird. But, for Elon to say it, it's weird. That he says there should be no government subsidies. But I'm like, okay, you made how much off of government subsidies? And now you say there should be none. But again, I understand it. It's just strange coming from Elon. And then, but he did say, he's looking to clean up, the zero tax bill and all that stuff. So again, it's not what Elizabeth Warren wanted, but he's willing to do something. Right. Again, which is good. I thought that was kind of crazy, but hey, I was pissed off. You people took me out, took my family out. Right. Tech using the billionaires are part of it. Well, if we gave what company is that? If we gave that company all the money we gave you, he could do it for 10 times less, or he or she could do it for 10 times less. Also. In fact, could you really do it for 10 times less? Well, that's not okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's not satellite. It's regular broadband. Again, satellite broadband can't. I don't know if it can expand as much more. So we need to look at that. What it's doing to people, what it's doing to the planet. Well, that's solid. That's cable, right? That, of course, it's more money. Well, it's like using my mobile phone or using my cable broadband. Right. I'd rather use it. Like right now, I'm on my cable broadband. Even though I have a mobile phone, I have not a satellite, but I have what's called a cell tower connection. So again, he's providing something a little bit more for that price. Native kids sitting there going, "Come on, I need faster speed. What is this?" Blame Elon. We were supposed to get cable broadband. That's how Elon's not letting you know that part. What's a spec? Does it give a spec? No. What? You're too big for your britches. Even though you're a billionaire, you have to go through basic training, Elon. We have to mold you into a real man. Or a real trans, one or the other. It's your choice. So really, Christian Nealon did well. We want something like that coming from the border. We want something like that coming from, again, OPSEC. I understand OPSEC. Right. The border probably has a little bit more OPSEC we need to be careful about. But Border Patrol at Homan, and Homan's a busy guy, but we need a social media thing like she's doing there. Like 3 hours ago, she did it again. You keep getting that message out there. At a certain point, we need to pick up that message of cultivating the informant ideology where, there is a way out, possibly. Like a march. And you can get a green card. Again, I know some of these people inside. I just don't know them. Like in my afterlife, I'll meet these people probably. Now, my mind does a lot of work. They're scared. They don't know who to go to. but they want to get out of where they are, and they would be willing to, tell the truth about everything that's happening in their specific the criminal thing going on around them, and they're in bondage. Some are very young. There's one girl, I can see her, 16, 18, short hair, black, of course. I think she's in prostitution. I'm just not sure, but it's was it not propensity? The preponderance of the evidence says she's in prostitution. In some rural areas, we have prostitution. We have so some of those kids could be in prostitution, or at this point be older, and it looks like some of it's rural. And again, we have quote unquote man camps and other things going on even in the immigrant world. Right. Again, Iowa, they had that rape, so that would be the same type of people that would use, or actually attempted rape. I don't think she was raped. Right? He just murdered her at a certain point. Who is this? The Wall Street Apes. Who is that? Well, they're saying that they raided this camp and it's still operating. Again, they call it a Democrat camp. We have a focus. Obviously, they raided the camp. They have additional people, right, in custody, and they're being deported. We're sticking to the plan, whatever the plan is. Right. Thank you, Larry. We have priorities. Again, like the Secretary Noem said, she's going after the Trenarega people. Right. So that's a higher priority than that Democrat-funded camp. Pima County. They're saying it's okay. So here's what he doesn't know. Okay, so it's a human and drug trafficking. It aids human and drug trafficking, it says. Now, what he doesn't know, possibly, is that we already pulled people out of there. We got our information. Now DEA's watching it. Or ICE. Right. Thank you, Larry. Well, because we might need them to get away from that camp. Because we want other people to come in, and then we can, it branches out. We can find the other people. Right. Right. If somebody comes in. Right. If somebody comes in, we identify that person and then we follow them. And then we develop additional information. Like letting a camp in Pima County operate may give us information in Albuquerque, LA, Chicago, because we just follow it and watch it for a while. So that's why federal investigations are so strange. They sometimes take a long time, but they're developing all the information they can about networks. That's what that's about. That type of thing, human trafficking, narcotics distribution, smuggling, and all that. That it's about networks. Right. So if you hit that first location, then you cut yourself off from learning about where the rest of it's at. Right.
Names and numbers and all of that. You're not a cop.
Fine for Your Honor. Private property right now. I'm taking.
Yeah, and I mean you see it all. Look, there's some old faded camo.
You mean
But if you walk just beyond these trees here,
let's do it.
You're gonna probably find some stuff. You know what I mean? I heard you were a humanitarian aid group.
Okay.
There's a blue cap for one of the Sinaloa black water jugs right there. Trademark of this area coming through Pima County. The only cartel that uses the black jugs. Now, right here, you can see, check this out. You see another of their foot trails coming out, man. This is not animals. This is not a game trail. This is a very well beaten, yeah. And I mean, you see it.
Yeah, but you're saying you're trying to shut that place down. It could have had multiple occupants. Right. Well, what I would do there, if it keeps repopulating, is hide some cameras. You got to make sure they don't see you and place the cameras. Right. Something broadcasting cellular. If they have cell signal, they probably do. Right. Thank you, Larry. So if you have a location that keeps coming up, just surveil it from a distance, so you know when people are there and you can watch it. So that's another thing they need to buy. They need to buy discrete camouflaged cameras that they could hide somewhere that would not be not detectable, and transmit on a cell wavelength or satellite, one or the other. So that, again, is very important to increase our eyes and ears. And we want it so Mike Banks people can just take a camera and go plop and have it up and running. Right. Now, the idea of solar and running out of power is an issue. See, the problem is eyes and ears. Their eyes and ears. I do see power lines, what I believe is power lines. So we could probably do something. Well, I'm not going to tell you how we do it, but we would put a request in, and certain people wouldn't place it. It might be on the internet how we do it, but I'm not going to say it. Again, don't just, you got to do it right way. You got to make it look like it's just, you can't let it be figured out what you're doing. So we could rig it into the power if there's a power line. So again, I would get both types. So Border Patrol needs to be able. We need the intelligence. Again, military intelligence, law enforcement intelligence. Let's increase our capability. If we have a camp or a location that seems to be a hot spot, let's develop camera systems, camouflage camera systems, so we can play. I mean, it has to be like we can do it right now, unless we need it rigged into the power. Then there's probably, and that just depends. Some areas an officer could do it if it wasn't a high power line or something like that. Right. So we that way, it's like this guy going nuts calling you. You'd already know who was there and when they were there. Right. So that's the best way to clean out what this guy calls a camp. Right. So we need jump kits. I'm big on jump kits with cameras, but in this particular case, we're not talking about Polk County and Sheriff Grady Judd. That's a little easier. Right. You can use just regular cameras. Right. Well, the vegetation is sparse, the trees are sparse, the whole area is sparse in this particular area. So we need something we can hide. Solar power would be great in this area, but again, it has to be concealable. Well, like I'm saying, we need to get it down to a lower level, lower echelon. We don't need to. We don't want to have to call ESU in if we don't. If we have a little jump kit, a little rig we can camouflage and put out there to watch someplace where a camp is, where just an agent on patrol can have one of these kits every time they go out, or two of these kits. You can put it in the MRAP. Have it stored in the MRAP. They go to the MRAP, they grab it, they put it up. The area is being watched. And then it would alarm if somebody showed up in the area. Again, we have to develop it so that it's a robust system that works outside in inclement weather. Right. But I don't really think it would be that expensive, and I'm sure there's something off the shelf that would work. Because, this stuff's already out there somewhere. You just got to find a reputable system. Right. There's no reason that agents have to go out to this location and keep watching it. Right. We just simply put cameras on it, and when it alarms, we go out there. And then eventually they'll be afraid of the area. And they won't go there. Now, of course, they'll just build another one, but so again, sometimes some of the work is limited in effectiveness, where somebody on the street thinks you could just end it. Right? You end that one, they build another one. Right? But the idea is, if you can watch it with a camera, it takes very little effort to do that. You just got to it costs a little bit of money to get the rig, and then you've got to camouflage it well. Right? But also, there are systems you could, from a distance, like that are larger and not so hideable, that it's not at the camp. You can watch the camp, and you can install it somewhere where somebody's not going to really see it. You run on a solar power panel. Right. I guess you could put it on a telephone pole, but then they might climb it and destroy it. Right. So you would need it somewhat camouflaged. Well, it could look like just a regular power box, but there's actually a camera in there. That's the kind of systems that we need. Right. Or something that just doesn't look like anything. It looks like a branch of a tree. So we need to develop a readily accessible covert camera system that is also camouflaged and can run on solar or be rigged up to a power line somehow. Again, some of those power lines, I think, have power boxes that are actually a step down. Right. It's not going to be every pole, but I think some communities put those in the poles just in case it's needed, right, for some reason. So again, you might want to install that. Go out there and find areas to install step-down boxes, so you can put cameras up real quick if you need to. So again, it would work. My plan. If you were working on my plan for rural cameras, you'd probably already have them. Well. Rural areas are notorious, certain rural areas especially, for dumping bodies. Right? People drive out of the city, they go and dump a body, and they come back to the city. So if we have and usually we don't have cameras out there. So we only can track the person to like the edge of the city. Like Madalena Kojikuri. That's a possibility in that case. It's a possibility that Madalena Kojikuri's body was dumped somewhere where Diana Kojikuri was traveling to in the days following the disappearance. Right. But we don't have a lot of cameras out there. So it's hard to pinpoint where that might be. I said, I don't even know how many. Well, they couldn't figure out where this person was in like Washington State. And when you look at the map, it had been so simple to figure, like, placement of 2 cameras would tell you whether that person was inside the city limits or outside the city, because it's like one way in, one way out, like one single road. Theoretically, unless they walked. So you would know whether that person was inside or outside the city limits. That's the first part. Right. And then there's only so many intersections. So you would put them at your intersections. Then you would know if the person turned right, left, or went straight. Right. And essentially, you don't have to monitor them. You just have to have it recorded. Oh. So when you have a missing person, you go to these cameras and you start looking. The person, I think, committed suicide, hung themselves. And I can't remember if they were I think they were just inside the city limits. Washington State or Oregon or something. I think it was Oregon or something. So I said, we need to develop these rural camera systems because this is where they dump the bodies. This is where, we have trouble locating where someone is. And the thing about the rural camera system is there's not as many intersections. There's not as many options as long as they stay on the road. Right? So it doesn't cost that much. Actually, and then the highway system, the highway exit system, we do have that one. I think they did develop that one, so we would know whether they exited the highway somewhere, and right. That's why I said with Palmer, the father or the stepfather of Madalena Kojikari, did he ever get off the highway? Where did he go? Where didn't he go? Right. You need to know everything about that travel to Ohio. Who are the people he visited in Ohio? Thanks, sorry. My camera fell, or my phone fell. I caught it, but the mount just jumped off the mount. So I really kind of like this Google Pixel. I see little things that could improve. I like it. My phone's a little square. They changed supposedly the Samsung and rounded the edges a little bit. But I like the presentation of the square phone. I really like that screen. It's like a television, kind of thing. I don't know why they would round it. Well, I guess for people that don't use cases, maybe it's better for them. I use a case. One of the rugged cases with a built-in screensaver. But this Google Pixel's nice. If they do some minor tweaking to it, it probably should sell real well. I wish they built one with like the next model, but I don't know if they sell well enough to do it. But if they did one with a stylus, like to compete against the S24, which is pretty difficult, but it's just a Samsung. S23, 24, 25. It's just a one of a kind phone. You can't go to iPhone and be happy. It's like going from a computer desktop to a tablet or something. You almost get a desktop experience on that phone. Yeah, I decided I wanted a small tablet and a phone, but I had been wanting two phones. So I decided to combine it'll be 3 items into just 2 phablets. That way I have 2 separate carriers, 2 separate ways to get to the cellular network. And I have, 2 phablets, so when one runs out of power, or if I have to look at the internet while I'm online, I can do that. Yeah, it's an operational decision. lot going on. Gotta track it. Keep the coverage coming, Elon. Here, I'm tracking the border here. Well, it's sad, but the sadness, again, I explain this in a lot of different things. The sadness began when you started letting them in beyond a certain point. Again, if you didn't do that, nobody would care that you were letting them in. We're not against. We don't hate people. Most people, again, that's what Trump and these people should remember. Most people don't hate immigrants because they're poor people and they're being harassed in their third world country, and they come up here to work at Starbucks. I mean, at a bearable point, at a logical stop point of only allowing so many so that we can manage it. Hey, we're okay with it. We go to church sometimes. We do charity. I'm in the CFC and I give money to this, that, and the other thing as a federal employee. So we don't rule out allowing people in, but we all too well understand that we all suffer in some way at this point because of those numbers. So we don't, again, the number of people that actually hate the illegals that voted for Trump is not everybody that voted for Trump. Right? So that's why he's not really scoring points with certain communities yet. And in fact, if they're Arabic, they they are immigrants, and they probably know somebody who overstayed their visa. So again, I don't want you to think that that's the mentality, no matter what somebody else says. It's just getting these numbers down, rescuing the people that are in bondage. Again, the Marshal Service and those task forces every so often do honest work, every so often. And they will find immigrants and free them, right, from sexual bondage, sex trafficking bondage. Well, people pray to the Lord, pray to God. And God receives those prayers. These people are praying. Some of them, they want to get out of the situation. If they get deported, let it, so be it. What I do inside is I try to convince them to actually find somebody they can, in law enforcement, that can tell and make a deal and get to stay here. I try to convince them that is available, but a lot of them don't believe it. That's how little known, at least, psychically, that's the inference. That's how little known that program is. And then there's another group that don't trust the program. So that's why I'm telling you to do that video series. So one group don't believe that they don't know about it, and they don't believe that. Again, come from Central America, you're not necessarily going to know that the government of the United States will let you stay if you tell us about crimes and help us prosecute, especially if you're a victim of the crime. Right. So, no. So again, I spoke about, isn't it weird that there's TB there now that I'm trying to get massages? But you have to understand it's also Satan. Satan's doing that. But there are people on this planet that Satan will get them to move their will and move, invocations and stuff like that, and then cause that. I mean, it may just be cursing my massages, but all of a sudden you got TB out of control that you can't control, and be dangerous to go get a massage. So I got to think, what am I going to do? Again, the best thing for me to do is clear out of this area if I could, but again, I got a lease, and unless I get a chunk of money, I couldn't afford to do it. It probably cost me just $2,500–3,000 to get out of a lease. Maybe not. I have to look at it, but I think that's generally what it costs. So I'm supposed to get warm today. Let's see what the temperature is. Both be in the 50s. It's going to kind of be sad. It's going to rain, so it's going to be a weird, tomorrow I think it's going to be in the 50s, but rainy. It's going to be kind of weird, but they're not all sunny, warm, but let me see what we got here. So it's 47 degrees. We haven't hit 50 yet. About 12. 11:30, 12. We'll hit it. All right. But we got 52 today, 51 tomorrow, theoretically, 54 on Friday, 58 on Saturday, 66 on Sunday, Monday 62, Tuesday 54, then it drops down to the 40s, which isn't too bad in itself. It keeps changing. Because this morning, it was going to drop down in the 30s instead of the 40s. But I guess the further we get out, further out it is, the less we realize. And there's a 30-day. Okay, it just depends where you look. Right? The other one has some 30s. But 44, 45, 40, 44, 45, 41 there. It's definitely not the weather we were having. The lows are even higher than the highs on those days. You have lows in the 20s. You have about at least 5 days. And at that point, we're well into February. February is the last real cold month. March is pretty nice in Kansas, if you ask me, unless something weird happens. So we're getting there. Again, let's do all the, just because we're not spending money right now doesn't mean we can't move with a wish list. Put a wish list together. Trump wants to spend money. So we might get rid of Elon real quick. What? Doge? No, we don't have anything like that. Or Doge, whatever it is. Oh, no. We were just thinking maybe he wanted to do that. We got too many things to have to actually have that happen. We got too many things we got to do. Elon's in the way. We got rid of him. He won't let us spend money. I'll explain it now. So you never know when the money's going to free up or when money's going to be found. Like sometimes, I'm sure Mike Banks knows about this. Right? Money just shows up. Like, oh, we didn't know we had this money. We can spend it, and then we spend it. Or it may have been you may have been holding out for something that doesn't work, and you're allowed to reassign the money because it's not out of that category or whatever it is. Right. So get all the information together about what we want to buy, right? And touch base with the people. The larger boats are good too, but I think you have larger boats. And again, because of fluctuations in depth of water, again, that's why you use the airboats. And then, of course, you can also beach it real quick. Right. So, yeah, we need to look at armored airboats. And I guess it would be logical to assign it to maybe BORTAC and BORSTAR first. I don't know how many you would get and what it costs and what deals you may find that he's too expensive because he's a specialist. Right? And you may have to go somewhere else, or you may even do something in-house that works. Like I said, if somebody sells a cab, maybe the manufacturer of that has somebody they can reach out to of the ones you bought and put it, because the easiest way is just to put a cab over the seat. I like the ones he built for Nigeria, not Nicaragua, for Nigeria. I think but I don't know what the inside of it. If you have to stoop down real low or something, it has to be operationally sound. I don't know how that sizing works, but we need to plan. We need to know that we have a source online that can do it for X amount of dollars. And again, of course, that person will say, if you buy 10, we'll do it for this. So you may be able to sell it to some bean counter when we get a discount for a larger purchase. Right. If you buy one, it's probably going to be a little more expensive than buying 10 per piece. So that's the next purchase. Now they have to be worked out of the inventory or modified. The ones that are wide open. Again, you can move those someplace where at least you believe it'll be safe. There are places where Border Patrol, again, but we would think the northern border, right? That's what he was thinking, I bet. Well, northern border, I'm safe. I'm someplace safe. Right. But there's probably locations where those boats would make sense for the Border Patrol, the open boats. And again, I would replace them if you could at some point. The safe boats are large, I think. I think those you bought would probably have some protection. I don't know if they do or don't. If your safe boats don't have protection, you have to figure out, a modification that would. Well, remember, I'm the guy that I've been saying it for what, 10, 12, probably, I guess 10 years maybe a little longer. Every police vehicle should be a ballistically protected vehicle. There's no reason not to. Again, the glass should be also, but an officer should know that they could just duck down and they're fine. Again, the Ford, I think, post me saying that, started putting ballistic panels in the doors. I don't know if it's still there, but I haven't worked on it in years. Again, they killed me. You let them kill me. You may have killed me. That's how whacked all of you are. Yet I live, right? That is not the first ballistic protection project I've worked on. In fact, you may actually have some ballistic protection in your police package because of my work. Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Larry. So you just got to focus on that type of thing. MRAPs are great. Just wish I could go on one of those missions. No, not really. I just want to get married and go to church, actually. But if they're not going to let me, God will have me do this stuff. Well, why do I want to let you go to church? Because you're trying to make me the person you say I am, and going to church doesn't allow that to be even falsely true. Like, it doesn't even look like it, right? I just kept torturing me. I mean, decades. So let's get MRAPs moving towards the border. Well, that allows, like, on other operations, we may at the most 4 in one of those 4-door pickups, right? Allows you to put a squad of people, and then you have an environment where you can actually sit there, like a command center, and you give your operations briefing in there in a comfortable environment, that kind of thing. Especially when there's inclement weather, right? You have protection from inclement weather, where you can all gather. Right. Again, don't overload the number of people in there, so you do maintain that ability to have some space. And of course, bringing extra equipment that you might want to use. Right, and I guess they could be outfitted with some sort of flare, some sort of radar. Right. Might be already outfitted. I don't know. So look at the military inventory. Look if we have, just FLIR devices sitting somewhere. I mean, usually they're assigned to a unit and might have operators, but who knows? You might, if you look in the inventory in the military, Hegseth has to get some people on this, like scroungers, just scrounge stuff up if you can. You might have, you may find in the military inventory over in this warehouse is a bunch of FLIR attachments for vehicles. You know, a flare. What do they call it? I don't even know what you call that. A flare antenna, I guess, or something like that, or a flare device. And you know, you just put it on top of your vehicles, and then all of a sudden you have a mobile flare device, or you know, some other thermal imaging or something. So you may have independent packages of flare thermal imaging sitting in the inventory, or even something obsolete. It doesn't mean that Border Patrol doesn't have a use for it, and Border Patrol has a use for it. Right? So something's obsolete to the military, maybe, you know, I wouldn't say cutting edge, but something that the Border Patrol could use for cutting edge because they don't have anything in that void. Right? So again, if something we can put on a vehicle. So somebody's got to go through the military inventory and find everything that we need. I do it, but you know, they ruined my life. Even when I was a colonel in the CIA, I'd do it. That kind of stuff's fun. Right. So the SF guy could do that too. If you have your SOCOM people, they can start, you know, looking through the inventory, different arsenals, different warehousing locations, and see what they can find, see what they can pull into the operation. Yeah, it might be, you know, because again, before they send it to Haiti or Ukraine, let's get it. And really, that was available the whole time. So the Border Patrol should have received those MRAPs. Again, we think Spec Op, but when you look at Border Patrol mission, MRAPs make sense. There's enough space in the back to really have some room to have a meeting and things like that. In operations order, warning order, whatever it is. And it works great because now we have the MPs down there. So we have a vehicle that's large enough for everybody to get inside and patrol in. And then they do the foot patrol. Use that as a base for the foot patrol. Now there is an advantage to additional vehicles. Again, they go 50 different directions, and you have an MRAP. You can't go 50. You can't go a couple directions. So if you have like 3 or 4 vehicles, they break and you break with your vehicles, right? And then of course some people on foot. But again, it could be the same concept as what we saw the other day with all the different agencies. Right? Not say it's different agencies, but you can bring in separate teams working the same area. Right? And then if there's a reason, you might need everybody to converge on one point. So 10th Mountain, I guess, is on alert, and the 101st Airborne Air Assault MPs are down there being briefed, I guess. Again, if they need equipment, you know, get them equipment. Again, remember to put their head in the game because you know it's very important that they understand how it can go from zero. That's one of the most important parts is they have to be ready for it to go from 0 to 100 miles an hour in a second. Right? Any situation, because how desperate. Again, it's a very, again, when they say our citizens, this is a woman with kids, people like that freak out in those scenarios when everything they've worked for months, you know, and they all talk about it every day. They're being inundated with this idea of success in the United States, and you stand between them and that success, and they have to go back to their third world country because of you. So again, that's very dangerous. And again, the cartel people, they're just murderers anyway. Rapists and murderers. So you got to do officer safety, officer survival. They got to get their head in the game. Well, because what do you see the other person as far as, you know, what's their capability? Again, I speak about the deep state like this because people are like, well, it's a cop, and I work with that cop. The cop's not the cop is that person. They're just not going to show it to you. They need to understand that that person will kill them faster than than anybody knows. Just bam, and you're gone. Again, getting hit. Again, you have a lot of officers that got hit upside the head, got a concussion, something like that. That could have killed that officer, and that person wouldn't have cared. A lot of Border Patrol people get assaulted, or a certain number. I wouldn't say a lot. We have a lot out there, right? And sometimes they have a concussion, and that's designed to kill. Really, if it didn't kill you, you're lucky. See, that type of thing really scares you. Ooh. You make the Border Patrol free. Dangerous up there. But that is true. Sometimes you work the mission, you don't even think about it, right? And how dangerous it is. Just sometimes it's good for Border Patrol people to remember how dangerous it is. Again, as we move through this thing where we have an increased presence in patrol and border operations, and they should realize that at any moment the posture could change and get much, much more dangerous. But I would definitely move CAVs. If you wanted to militarily defend the border, the first units I would move in as far as, the helicopter and the spec ops are fine. But again, we're still dealing with soft side to a certain degree. I would move CAV scouts out. Now, there's nothing wrong with, we can pull in an SF team. They're busy in other things sometimes. I don't know if we're doing too much around the world right now, but you can pull an SF team in and put them in a striker. That might be better. Because I would feel better about that, right? As far as mind control, or not mind control, controlling the mind, right? It would be more likely that a CAV scout would have scenario fulfillment. But again, Green Berets, special ops people, we had that in Iraq, I think. Or was that Afghanistan? I think it's Iraq, where they killed all those civilians. It was actually scenario fulfillment. Nobody ever made that argument. It was Blackwater or whatever. I guess they were called Blackwater back then. They actually were experiencing an attack that wasn't happening. But it was because they trained so much, and because every day they live it, and they've been through so many attacks, they believed it was happening at that moment. Again, I'm going to go home alive mentality. And again, it's understandable. I think I defended those people online. Yeah, it was scenario fulfillment. They actually see that's what screws you when you go through scenario fulfillment. Nobody understands it. They're not, or maybe willing to understand it, that you are actually experiencing an attack while it's going on, and even your friendly fire, some of that becomes enemy fire. That's usually what happens in those type of cases, where like a Blackwater case. Now, the one where they shot down the Iranian airliner or something like that, that was a different one because they weren't receiving fire. But they believed that, this was a missile or something like that. Well, because you train and train and train, and you live it every day. And again, in their case, they were living it every day in combat and had gone through maybe some ambushes and things, a couple of IEDs, and I'm going and know people that aren't going home, when it's all said and done. So in their mind, it was happening, and if I'm not mistaken, some of the friendly fire, they believed it was enemy fire. Correct. So once it kicks off, it gets worse because, oh my God, I'm under fire, but it's the guy in the vehicle next to you or something like that, or across the way. I guess we need to think about that because I brought it up. I don't know how it applies. Just waiting for it to warm up, and then I'll go do some things. I have to get my vehicle cleaned. I got to get my bedroom cleaned here. I got to take the bed out and just pull everything out that I don't need in here and really do a spring cleaning since it's getting warm. Or maybe it might be better on a rainy day because I can go outside today. It's sunny. Enjoy the sun. or at least partly sunny. On a rainy day, I'll be stuck in here. And I could do all this extra stuff. So all I'm doing is actually, this is what I do in a day. You're just here now because I'm broadcasting. Like when you hear me speaking in here, this is generally, unless I'm cursing them out, I do that every so often. I curse them out, put spells on them. I wouldn't say I put spells on them. Again, I petition God to destroy them. Is a better description. Right. But I might get carried away in the moment and use some choice words. Yeah, they're the ones that wanted to torture me. They knew the effects. Again, some narcotics distributors paid some, like smugglers paid them, made them millionaires. So we need to make everything safe that we can, and that involves increasing the protection in the vehicles. Some vehicles we can't do that. And that's why I brought up bringing Cav Scouts in here. Well, it's possible. I'm not sure how that works. I just got those thought came is, could we use law enforcement officers in a striker? You can use MPs in a striker. I guess, do we have that? I don't know if we have that. Can we teach them? Let me see. Military police in striker. Oh, yeah, okay, we do have them. Oh, but are they in strikers? I guess they have to be. It's striker, a brigade combat team. Oh, wait, is that striker, camp striker? This is 2011. Here's 2021. Where are they at? I gotta get the news article. Soldiers with the military police platoon, headquarters and headquarters company. Do you have some of these people coming? No, you got light coming. Verified drive and vehicle dispatch of soldiers in a convoy at traffic control point. What unit are they with? That's second ID. Where's second ID at? Unless is that striker the vehicle or just called striker? Okay, yeah, MPs have tested newer. So I understand there's quite possibly MPs out there with strikers. That's probably, if you're nervous, right, about the posture of Cav Scouts. Okay, because I think there's a TNOE for it. You could actually create it on a border. But it takes some training and a learn up, so I'm not sure. Let's see what year this kind of spacious striker. Well, that's a different one. Looks like a smaller one. Smooth arrived in the MRAP. What year is this? That's 2011. So again, there's been a change since those deployments ended. Okay, here they are going south from Fort Carson. Are they striker? It's just a couple of days ago, or a few days ago. All right, they're going on a bus. They're deploying just people and bodies. Right. I guess there's no reason. Well, again, if you're using the armament on the striker, they have to be trained on that. Okay, they're going into Fort Bliss. Who's yeah, MP4. Okay, these people turned in more than 300 strikers in 2021. Maybe they're overseas. I don't know at this point. And they drew Abrams tanks and Bradley fighting vehicles and joint light tactical vehicles. And I guess maybe the strikers being moved away a little bit. I guess you just have to look to see if there's something in the inventory of units. Because they're all converting to armor there. So I guess maybe there's not as much striker brigades around. Do MPs, military police, ride in striker vehicles? Okay, so it's not unheard of. Yeah, that might be better for what you need. If you're worried about the discernment of engagement, right? Applying the rules of engagement, use of force. Right? Here's where they test drove it, but that was like 2011. The idea is to have available an Overwatch vehicle that will not succumb to an RPG and that can mount some level of an offense to take out whatever that is, whether it's a crew serve, they're not necessarily crew serve, but a belt fed machine gun, large caliber machine gun. Again, the two favorites at this point of the cartels: a large caliber belt fed machine gun, or rocket propelled grenade attack.
I gotta go through these pictures. What is that vehicle? Okay. Yeah, there is. Right. So it's an M117 armored security vehicle. Known as the Guardian. See? Right. Okay, so that would work. If they're still out there. All right. There are most likely military police units still using that vehicle, period. If you're worried about the Cav Scout having the appropriate discernment for law enforcement, period, you could deploy military police units in that vehicle for an overwatch that could successfully battle rocket-propelled grenades and belt-fed large caliber machine guns. What happened there? It stopped. For an overwatch. Defeat rocket-propelled grenades. Or attack. And or a belt-fed large caliber machine gun attack. At least I believe it. I might need to look at that. Are they still out there? It's kind of saying it was. Oh no, they're on the master divestiture list. Well, you might want to look. You may find these things and be able to pull them out of mothballs. So I guess they're also in strikers. They're also. What is interesting? The Super Stallion helicopter is able to carry the ASV. So there's a lot of options. I don't know if you'll find a unit with it. And I thought because a lot's changed in the last 4 years. And the question is, did we divest from these things and then just send them overseas? Did we get rid of our stuff and just give it to the Ukrainians or somebody? Haiti, whatever. Now we don't have it. So I don't know what to tell you. But you got to find something like an MRAP. They're all basically a type of MRAP. Though it looks like there's a ton of vehicles that you can pull out of mothballs. I'll put it from that perspective. You'd have to find MPs that knew the vehicle already, which is you probably could, and then somebody could train the new people. But again, you have to get to the okay. There's ranges. They probably have live fire ranges at Bliss, So if you get a vehicle in and you need to train your people on that vehicle, you could do it over at Bliss very easily. Right. That's another vehicle that might be available for deployment. If you are nervous about deploying cavalry scouts, you could instead deploy military police in those vehicles. If you have concerns, right? Have concerns. Some of those vehicles might be in storage and might need to be slightly refurbished, or might be available within a relatively short time of minor maintenance. So we need to locate those anti-mine, anti-ambush vehicles and begin at least preparing them for deployment if necessary. Because anytime that's the like max level we would use for law enforcement, like military law enforcement or something like that. So we need to have those vehicles available if we were to use them. And I don't know what your plans are. You might already be moving something. I don't know. But again, let's get what we have together and make sure it doesn't get shipped somewhere else. Because we don't know what we're going to need in 2 years, or even in a year, or even tomorrow. All it would take would be one incident, and then we'd have to deploy a whole bunch of stuff. Right. What I'm saying is deploy something before an incident. So maybe we won't have the incident. Yeah, the inventory probably has something laying around, and maybe just a whole bunch of, like, we could find, 20 strikers that we can put down there for just, and again, it might be sitting at Fort Bliss. They may have 20 strikers on the side that nobody's using. You just got to go in there, fire them up, do the maintenance. Right. We might find MRAPs. We want to find MRAPs. We want to find strikers wherever they are in the nation, move them down to the border. Right. And then we can put maintenance people, motor pool people in to look at them and try to figure them out and see how well they are and what we need to do. You need operations training people, training officers, or not officers, but NCOs and stuff. They have to figure out what it would require to qualify and use those vehicles at the varying levels of armament. Again, just because you use an MRAP doesn't mean you need to put a machine gun on it, right? Obviously. So let's, again, we have to get, HEXF can find somebody who's good at scrounging up stuff or something. It's like SF guys are usually good at that. So again, maybe you want to just find the SOCOM people and tell them, find us MRAPs, find us MRAP type vehicles, find us Striker type vehicles, find us this thing, what do they call this thing? Armored security vehicle type vehicles, and then prepare a list of ones that are operational that we can just transfer to the border. Again, if they find units that we can like they may find an MP unit with certain vehicles that we could just send down on the border right now. Right. And then their vehicles, what they do is they'll put their vehicles, generally, there's other ways to do it. You could transport it on a truck, but generally they usually put it on a railhead. They schedule a train to transport it. Right. And then they go to the railroad tracks. I think each fort has them. Right. And then they load them up on the trains, and then they pull them out. Right. Again, you could prioritize that transportation nationally. So you want to get these vehicles like that available for the border, and you want to be able to deploy them in a day if you need to, or you may have plans to deploy them today. I don't know. But before we get too far into this thing, we need to find workable. Again, they want to also make a list of things that need to be refurbed, because we have that Red River Arsenal in Texas that can refurb things. I don't know what the time frame for that is. So we get these armored vehicles down there within 1 day deployment, which means they have to be routinely looked at, started, and all that. So we need to assign a mechanic unit to bring them up to standard. And then every so often if we don't deploy them, they have to look at them. Okay, the mine resistant hull. Okay, it's in National Guard armories as of 2010, or units within 2000. So again, I don't know what's available. A lot of these things were pulled completely offline, like 2021. In 2019, they started divesting the military of them. But again, it's like the A10. If we need it, we need it. We don't need to buy new stuff if we don't need to buy new stuff. Right. These are perfect. I mean, when you look at the military plan, it didn't make sense to keep them. But when you look at the border plan, these things make sense. Again, they don't have to have machine guns on them until maybe something pops up. But again, we need, actually, you probably would need it on there, right? Well, the idea is to provide a guardian, a protection for people while the Border Patrol does its standard mission. We need somebody available to take out anything that attacks that mission with a higher capability, such as rocket-propelled grenades and belt-fed large caliber weapons. There are several ways to do that. Again, Apache helicopters could do that. Again, that's not something that would, you think it's a bad photo op, but it's not really, right? It's something routine, actually, that a lot of countries do. They're not going to light up a drug smuggler in a pickup truck unless they, produce an RPG system. Right. So again, it's not for the Border Patrol mission per se. It's to protect the Border Patrol mission from something militaristic, I guess you could call it. We'll use that word, or militarized. Right. Thank you. I mean, obviously,
if they spot something, they're going to call it in. Well, yeah, you can go for a lesser weapon system if you want. Go for a utility helicopter with some sort of weapon system. That would work. Might be cheaper to operate. But remember, we have Apache pilots just sitting there on Fort Bliss and Fort Hood, most likely, or whatever you call them, Kosovos. And they need flight time anyway. And they're going to fly and spend money on gas and all that. Going to go to live fire exercises. Right. They're going to spend money on armament, munitions. So we're already spending that money. So, and again, what I'm hearing is, yeah, we've flown the border before, at least part of it's part of a train up. So what you can do right now is you can schedule those flights. You can just have them going up and down the border. As far as, when it's, one day, a certain unit flies and the next day the next unit flies, or maybe a few days apart. You'll have those helicopters flying on the border. And all you're doing is actually spending the money they were going to spend that day. Or the funding. Right? Because there's funding for training. There's funding for all sorts of things. Sometimes they do that full maintenance thing on the helicopters and the power up and all that, and see how it handles it. And well, part of that, some of that, I don't know what the interval is, but part of that maintenance schedule is to fly, a flight like that. Fly from Fort Bliss to, I don't know, Eagle Pass and back, or, maybe twice as far. I don't know what the distances are. So the test flight is actually something we use to present that vehicle on the border. Again, psychological operations being what they are, civil affairs being what they are. So if they're going to fly for a test flight or a training flight, make it the border. So we have maximum presence of those type of vehicles on the border. Now, just be careful. You don't want to lose one to El Mencho and his anti-aircraft guns. I don't know if he has that yet. Actually, he does. I think he does. Right. They have some armored vehicles with some large caliber. It's funny he speaks about RPGs. He also has, I think, large caliber belt fed. With, some of those calibers are devastating to a helicopter. I mean, all calibers are to a certain degree, but right. See, there's another thing we didn't see till just now, and if I wasn't speaking, I wouldn't have saw it. I may have actually had to speak all morning, just so we can remember that El Mencho and those cartels can take out our helicopters with their belt-fed large caliber machine guns. So again, there's a reason to arm those things. And of course, too, we have military police on border. On the border, we have Border Patrol. Again, they may know that. I mean, you're briefing them every day with the OPFOR capability, I imagine. Right. So, they got kids. They got, they want to see their kids graduate high school. They want to see their kids get married. They don't want to, be an absent parent, in the afterlife, having to look and they can't hear you. And you're like, hi, I'm here. I'm really here. So again, they see Apaches and helicopters with weapon systems on them fly across the border. It just gives them that additional comfort zone. It gives them comfort in what they're doing. That everything's going to be all right. We're going to make it through. Again, I speak about the train up for the big breach in Desert Storm that I was part of. So we were actively training, then we hit a lull. I think first we hit a lull, then we're actively training, then we hit a lull. When we hit the lull, what happens is they were telling us how we were going to die. They just said, look at the person next to you, they're probably not going to be here once we do the breach. Again, we figured some things out where that was not necessary, where we weren't going to die. Right? And that was, it was done by very high level intelligence people. So we started, you could tell, like I heard these arguments creeping up. You hear people screaming and yelling. People were growing short with one another. Again, we used to call it, it's just very difficult when they change terms and do all this crap, right? But we call it battle fatigue. When I took the correspondence course, it was battlefield fatigue. I think it was a forward observer. I think I took the forward observer. I was thinking of changing MOS to that. I think I took the forward observer correspondence course, which included battlefield fatigue. I was into call for fire, so again, even as an engineer, that's a skill that is very much great. It's not something you always do, so it's great to study that and remember how to do it. Bracketing and all that stuff. But what happened is everybody started, and I started thinking about my daughter that wasn't born yet. And I think before G-Day she was born at a certain point. But even that, then it just didn't go away. I just had this thing I couldn't shake. Right. Again, I call it the Sunni curse. They were cursing us. Didn't know back then, but that's all what it was. Right. So they're bringing demons to our mind. But again, there's physical things you can do to repel that. There's psychological things you can do to repel it. There's metaphysical things you can do to repel it. When we got to, the only thing that fixed it completely, again, we weren't wrecks or anything like that. So we moved to Wadi El Baton? Wadi El something. Or just west of Wadi El Baton, I think. Is that what it's called? I can't remember. Let me see. I don't even know how to spell it. Yeah, somewhere related to Wadi El Baton. We were somewhere around Wadi El Baton. I think we were west of Wadi El Baton. Yeah, it looks right. Let's pull it up on a map. So we moved there, and this guy got a Silver Star, and just, I may have given it to him inside. I don't know. I was pretty big. I didn't know that. I didn't know anything about bigness. I mean, we did something afterwards, and he got a Silver Star for it. But he's the tank task force commander, and they were the plow tanks, and he was so motivational. There's no way after he got done speaking that you would have any level of battlefield fatigue. So like the worst part is sitting around and then actually also doing 50%. There was no reason for 50% security until we got to that area west of Wadi El Baton. So again, we were unnecessarily, because there was a Marine unit to our front, and they were on like probably at least 50% security, probably 50% security. So there's no reason for us to be, we were training up. We were getting ready for the big mission. We needed to be well rested. And we weren't, because they kept giving us 50% security. That was my big gripe. It didn't make no sense. And actually, I knew one of the Marines, Christopher Shaw, and he was in my class in the Marshal Service Academy. So he's out there secure. They're spending all that effort to secure that. And they did a fake. They did a fake a move. I think they did a fake move on G-Day.
to make them think they were going to move, and they were just going to stay there as the security element, if I'm not mistaken. Right. And then we were already on the west, and we swung in from the west. Right. You went in through the west, and then swung in. That's why we didn't die. Because we figured to go west of where they bought, and there was a reason, and it had to do with mines, underground mines and stuff like that. Right. Although once we did get through that initial area, we did run into mines. The vehicle, like the 113, was anti-personnel probably. But I think it would have just a tank mine would have destroyed us. But we were bouncing all over the place because the mines kept popping. But they were like anti-personnel mines. And actually, they had vacated it. There wasn't anybody there. It was one of those It was a really nice Republican Guard, one of those triangular defense things they built. And that's where I almost lost my leg. God saved me, no doubt. Like I was in the track, and they had already put the warning out by word of mouth, but never told me in the track about the anti-personnel mines, the little toe poppers. They're all over the place. So I'm standing on this side of this dirt mound, but the dirt mound is covered with these anti-personnel mines. And there was one to the left of my foot, one to the right of my other foot. I'm like, well, God saved me. Nah, it was scary. I danced all around the mines and nothing happened, because I stepped where Hashem had me step without knowing that back then I never knew that Hashem does that. And I never stepped on the mine. But they were right there. And I think that's what they were. I don't think these were Soviet. These look like U.S. toe poppers. Right. Like a lunch. But while we were driving up to that, they had probably like the M6 in U.S. arsenal would be like M16 mines, like a larger anti-personnel mine. But it would cause the track to bounce back and forth when they went off. First, we didn't know what was going on. We're like, what the hell? And oh, they're mines. The trash going boom, boom, boom. And we're driving as fast as we could go. Because that's what happened. We're taking prisoners. We're going into bunkers. We kind of stopped for the evening, and then Schwartzkopf yelled at Franks, General Franks, because where are you? We're back here. So we had to actually just give up everything. No more bunkers, no more, until we got up into Iraq. Then we started doing that again. But we were clearing bunkers and stuff like that. Then we were driving. I can't even believe our vehicles made it. It was because we had old vehicles, and we were going 45 to 55 miles an hour the whole way into Kuwait. Then once you get to Kuwait City, I guess it is, we slowed down. You were on the highway of death. They were cleaning up all the graves. Registration guys were picking up the bodies from that whole episode and putting them into I guess on trucks to be buried. I was like, yeah, this is weird, because they're wearing gas masks, the full mop gear. I'm like, oh, okay, it's great. And we're here sitting here wide open, breathing this stuff in, whatever it is. But I guess they had to touch the bodies and everything. Right. And then it wasn't that fast from there on it. Well, we hit some sort of, we hit some oil fields. I guess it's when next was to the oil fields, and then up. I think next was the oil fields, and then up to that last place that we were up, that I was with them. Then they sent me south. The peace talks thing was next. So once we got to Kuwait, we slowed down. I guess everybody was converging kind of in Kuwait City and then heading north into Iraq. And that was we were all converging for the battle in Basra that never happened, that they called off. Right. That's what it was. We were going to hit the Republican Guard in Basra, but, President Bush Sr. and Dick Cheney and Schwartz, they made a command decision not to do it. I think the British unit had already started to engage. Right. The Big Red One was coming up quick. Right. I forget who else was there. And that's when they called it off. Yeah, McMaster. McMaster was on his way. I'll say it too loud, Trump will get mad. He needs to let some of this stuff go. He's got to do it. Right? Or he's going to bog us down. And they're using it. He's being psychologically operated. Like, he'll get online, I bet he sees stuff that infuriates him. And they know what pages he goes to, so they're setting it up like that. If he does that, I think he does that. Right? Or somebody that shows him stuff from online. Right? If he has briefers and stuff like that. So again, Hegseth has to put somebody out there. Again, if you take, they're like, fits all type people. There's certain SOCOM Green Berets, and all Green Berets are kind of fits all. Give them a mission, they do it. Right. So, but there's certain SOCOM people that can, they'll just do whatever you need, and they're pretty successful at it, and they've shown over their career that they are. And you put them out there, and you tell them, find all our light armored vehicle, like our MRAP and all them other armored cars and stuff, and get a sit rep on conditions and what we can move down to the border. So again, even if we don't use it now, we need to move them down there, and we need them operational. So we need them down there, and again, the same theory is Reforger, the Pumpkiss sites where we pre-position things. We should have already had it pre-positioned. So we need storage sites at a minimum for these vehicles, and these vehicles we need a maintenance unit assigned to the vehicles, and they have to start them up every so often, drive them around the motor pool at least, right, after they inspect them and give them a pass. So again, let's just we don't know what we're going to need, but that type of vehicle was essentially, I guess, deactivated, decommissioned. But we need it back online just in case. We need to make sure they work right. And we'll have them down at the border. And if something goes wrong, we can move them out. We can give them to the MPs, give them to the Border Patrol, or the MP drives it, and the Border Patrols are in there, and that kind of thing. You can even give it to a driver. You can even just get a military. Again, if you're going to use the armament on it, you need people trained on it. So again, it would be logical for them to be stored at, I guess, Fort Bliss, because they have the range facilities to qualify on them. And again, so you want to identify the MPs. So you need a list of what they've driven and what crew served weapons, or that kind of thing that they use. I guess you call that a crew served weapon or something, or a vehicle of weapon. So you want to find, again, what's happening now is you'll find E6s, E7s that used to drive those, but the person that would drive it now may not have any experience with it. So again, we can take care of that also. We can cut them loose for a week over at Fort Bliss or something for familiarization training, just in case we have to draw them, or you plan to issue them. I don't know. And maybe we want to do a combination of both. So we want to move all that type of vehicle down to Fort Bliss. I mean, within reason. First, you want to look for things that are up and running and can be transferred very quickly and operational very quickly. Then you want to look for things that might need to be refurbished. Hopefully not. Hopefully we have stuff left. Hopefully not everything was moved to Haiti. So again, you want to look at Stryker. You want to look at the MRAP. You want to look at the the Guardian. And we want all those, that mine resistant, ambush resistant vehicles wheeled vehicles down there. Not really. I mean, if you find 10,000, we don't want 10,000 down there, but we want a certain number. Right. So we want to stockpile armored wheeled vehicles at Fort Bliss, or I mean, you could even, I don't know where's that arsenal at? I think it was Eastern Texas. You might have. I mean, you might have a start. Right, yeah, and Abbott could look. See what he has. Abbott could probably deploy him. I think, so when we get certain weapon systems, I understand they're attached to the Texas Military Department, which means I don't think Abbott has complete control of that vehicle. Again, it's just Hegseth can authorize it. Or whoever. I mean, General, what's that guy's name? He's coming up. Now, where is this? Okay, it's a little far from the border. It's up towards Oklahoma, actually. Right. Texarkana. Right. It's not terrible, but I think Fort Bliss is better focused. Actually, it's El Paso. Oh, we got up here. Yeah, it's too far north. It's north, but it now you probably want to. There's got to be something down south, right? Well, something out over by McAllen, South Padre Island. Right. Corpus Christi, maybe even San Antonio makes more sense. You got something. You probably have a National Guard place over there. Right. Wait, where's Fort Hood? I forget where. Or Fort Cabo. Well, what I'm trying to develop is an east and a west storage point on the border, southern border. Yeah, Fort Hood's not too far, but you might find something down south better. Laredo. But if worse comes to worse, you could put it at Fort Cavazos. Right. Well, you want an east storage point and a west storage point, and unless you can't do that, unless it makes more sense just to put one in Fort Bliss. But I'm thinking for deployment purpose, you'd want an east and a west. Again, something down by the border. Yeah, you probably have plenty of space down there somewhere. But we need the idea is we want a motor pool unit assigned to keeping tabs on those vehicles. Oh yeah, there's something over in we could do a San Diego. So I guess we probably need more than that. So we need an east and a west Texas. Then we need a New Mexico. Right. Well, you could put the Border Patrol probably has space somewhere in New Mexico. Artesia might have space, but then the key is that you need a motor pool unit. Right. There's a couple units in New Mexico. Right. Well, even if we're going to deploy some of them, we want them there, ready to deploy, and we want them there. So we want storage of some number. Again, you have to figure it out, right? And again, the more the merrier to a certain point, right? And again, you're bringing them in now because some might also need to be refurbished. So at that point, you can either create a new refurbished center, or you much like we would use something like the Red River Arsenal in Texas, and that appears to be near Texarkana. and they'll refurbish them and they'll be ready. Again, you got to figure out what the time frame of that generally is. Right. So what you're doing is you're preparing, for that future mission. Even if you deploy a few, right, you just want them down there and ready to go, and you want to get them and bring them into the border mission so they don't get sent to Haiti or anywhere else, if there are any left. But again, I've already identified like 3 types of vehicles that would be beneficial on the border. Again, upgraded armor is important, but not absolutely necessary. I mean, compared to the soft vehicles that we have right now, even those vehicles standard are fine. But again, we want upgraded armor if possible. So the best case scenario would be on the eastern side of the Texas border, one storage site, western side of Texas border, another storage site. Now, these storage sites are active storage sites. They have to be places where military people are that can monitor the vehicles, start them up, test them, that kind of thing, and even work on them if they need to. Then we need a storage, I would say put a storage site. Oh, we got Arizona, let me see. Maybe there's something we can find in western New Mexico, eastern Arizona, but I think it's pretty hot in that location. And then something in, there's plenty in California. Marines are out there. They got a lot of facilities. What do we got here? That's like no man's land, I think. Hey, the only area that I think we're gonna have to figure out is what to do in Arizona and New Mexico. I know there's Air Force bases. So we can also use an Air Force base. So we have to develop the next level of operation. Okay, so this is, you might say, okay, so here's an argument against what I just said, but this is a reasoning to do it the other way. Well, we have plenty of units at Fort Bliss, at Camp Pendleton, at Cavazos. These vehicles are for the people we have on the border now, or protection of them. Which means the other operations are a little bit different. The vehicles there are protect the people that would be on whatever operation we put them on. These vehicles are vehicles that, at a certain point, if it were to degrade, and again, we could take steps that psychologically hinders that idea of having the situation degrade. But if the situation degrades, Border Patrol might need to operate in those vehicles, and anything outside of those vehicles may become dangerous. So again, we still need Border Patrol to operate. No matter, again, if it's all out war, it'd be a little bit different. But again, I don't think we're going to get to that. But if we get it to a scenario where we're dealing with unlawful enemy combatants and terror type events, it may become necessary for Border Patrol to do their job out of those vehicles with those vehicles covering. Again, we have military police down there, so there are some of those larger vehicles that they can be qualified on and they could use. Again, it gets a little scary, but again, it means something's got to happen before we get there. Again, you could use an MRAP all day, and it's just a defensive. I've said that about it before. It's just a defensive vehicle. And before we get to the weapon systems, again, it may have already happened because things are happening every day. But to get to the point where every Border Patrol person needs to be in one of those vehicles if they're going to do the Border Patrol job, that's probably another level, not where we are now. But at least we need to prepare. And again, there's nothing wrong with having extra MRAPs for Border Patrol people. Again, it's a great platform for a lot of different things. So we need to just make sure we have a stockpile of those vehicles available down by the border, so we don't have to, okay, they're up in the Great Lakes Storage Center or something. And then you got to figure out how to get them down to the border. So we spend time now moving all this stuff that's excess or not needed, or maybe even in a unit. You may have assigned a unit that has it and weren't planning to bring the vehicles. And now you say, okay, get to the railhead, put your vehicles up on the railhead and send them down here. I just don't know the condition of the military as far as what they have available in that world, because we had the Ukraine, we had Haiti, and we've been sending things to those places. Maybe even Colombia, we still assisting. I know we helped Colombia fight the guerrillas. It's funny because the president used to be in that, I think. And now I think there's guerrillas attacking him. Right. Because I told you before, you have to keep that up. You can't let the program that got them all out of the jungle, or the majority of them, die, or we're going to be fighting it all over again. And of course, you let the program lapse. We have to give them incentive. You incentivize, again, a civil affairs program, psychological program. That's what we use to get them out of the jungle. Now one of them's president. Again, Hillary thought it up. I thought it up. That's one of the things I worked on with, I guess, the Hillary's people. So I was surprised the State Department never helped me. I don't care. I'll work with everybody to fix it. If it's broke, I'll fix it. Like when I woke up, the big thing I used to say was, you see, because they'll say if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, I'd say it's broke, fix it. Again, so that's what you would be doing with this type of thing. You're fixing something that we didn't take care of before. We need those type of vehicles down by the border if for an emergency situation. Again, we could also use that, right? Like Abbott's people or anybody, military, National Guard. We have the vehicles. We find people that are qualified on it, or we qualify them on it, and we have it available. But yeah, Abbott, you put bodies out there, and then when they increase the, Abbott puts more bodies, but they're just mounted troops, I think, right? Or even if they're mounted, I don't know if we moved anything with any serious armor down there or armor protection. Again, it's not traditional armor, quote unquote, because that's what they did in one of those units. They got rid of their strikers and their smaller, MRAP type of thing, and they went to Bradley fighting vehicles and M1s and things like that. So that's traditional armor. So again, I guess I don't know what Abbott's going to do with his people, but he probably has an interest in looking up MRAPs in his inventory and any type of armored vehicle in his inventory that doesn't present something that maybe he doesn't want to present at this point, because it hasn't escalated beyond a certain point, but the threat is there. Again, if you don't use if you're not lock and loading on an advanced weapon system or a higher caliber weapon system, I think that's within Abbott's authority. But if you're going to, and again, it's just Hegseth would authorize it. But if you're going to load up a crew, I don't know if they're considered crew served weapon, a vehicle weapon like a large caliber machine gun turret, I think you have to get DoD approval, which might take the president's approval. So again, to use the vehicles for defensive purpose, I think Abbott could authorize. But to use the vehicles for an offensive purpose, the president would have to authorize. At this point, I don't know if there's any need for an offensive purpose. Again, the idea being the same thing with ballistic vehicles. It boggles the mind why every police car isn't a ballistically protected vehicle. Or police vehicles, should I say. So yeah, I believe Abbott could authorize the deployment of MRAPs and armored vehicles. I wouldn't say move an M1 or don't move a tank or a Bradley. You probably don't need to do that. You might want to get to the level of a Stryker. Stryker vehicle. You move your wheeled vehicles, your wheeled armored vehicles. I'd move them out to the field. And again, you might have people like drivers of those vehicles that they're assigned to drive that vehicle. And you have a motor pool. And you have all your drivers and all your vehicles. And then you have, 7 National Guard guys are going to go out somewhere. And then that vehicle, then the vehicle is assigned to that mission. And they have a driver that and then in conjunction with Border Patrol, whatever it is. So I would say do that. Abbott could probably do that. And again, Hegseth will authorize, I'm sure Hegseth will authorize the defensive use of MRAPs, the Guardian vehicle, maybe even Strykers. I don't, not that, it's just a wheeled armored vehicle. If you put machine guns on them and you start loading it up, then it becomes something different. But for defensive purpose and transportation, right. And the MRAP is the most innocent looking, I guess. And the other one didn't look too bad, the Guardian armored car or something like that. So that's pretty much what you want to do is you want to find drivers that drive those things and where they are in the inventory and move them to the border. It's probably the easiest way to do it. It looked like he just deployed people, bodies, personnel, right? And those people, the easiest way to do it is to find drivers that drive these vehicles that we're looking for and have them deployed to the border if you can. And then they'll be assigned to a motor pool. I think you built someplace. I don't know if you built it, if it's done or yet. But you can put them in a motor pool there, and then they'll meet up. They'll link up with whoever needs to go out on a mission, right? And then they'll drive somewhere. Maybe Border Patrol comes in there first, or maybe you meet the Border Patrol somewhere. The MRAPs, like I said, probably the one that, as far as the public, they're used to the MRAP or something similar. If you start moving like a Stryker, they're not so used to looking at it. It's really just, again, if you don't put a weapon system on there, it's just a defensive vehicle. Just protects your people while they're on the border. But the Stryker would you'd probably have more pushback on a Stryker than you would an MRAP because, public's already seen the MRAP up in Detroit, MRAP in in Colorado, and MRAP in Philadelphia. So the public would be a lot easier. I don't know how many MRAPs are available. I don't know what is inventory of Texas. Actually, maybe I could look. Let's see if the Texas National Guard has MRAPs. Well, if you didn't kill my life, I'd be talking to my wife, and we'd be going, probably to the shelter or the food pantry and handing out stuff. But you didn't want me to have that life. So now I'm the general of the CIA. Texas National Guard, MRAP. Uses the MRAP. Okay, there's military service. They have it. Texas actually has them in some of their police departments.
Paris, Texas. I almost lived in Paris, Texas. There was a Victorian home there I was interested in. Maybe that's how they got an MRAP. Hey, how you guys doing? Oh, doing okay. You want an MRAP? I probably told them, you need an MRAP. Look what they're doing. You're too close to the border. They can take you down in a day. I guess we sent some to MRAP, or they come to Jordan, or they come over here. National Guard, Jordan troops trained on MRAP driving. I don't know. It's Amam Jordan. I guess we sent him to Jordan. I can't find MRAP vehicles. Deploying soldiers learn to operate MRAP vehicles. It's Ohio National Guard. Was this back 10 years ago or something? Same concept. Right. So yeah, so let's just locate all that stuff. Havoc can try to locate what he has. Right. And Rabbit's people, military department. There was some statement where some stuff isn't it, like the military department doesn't actually control it, right? But it had, it can be authorized to be used, right? That kind of thing. I'm sure some of the people, same thing that you've deployed. Right. So let's get some protective vehicles down there. Everything's soft-sided, or generally soft-sided. And the idea is I would still get some strikers, down there, but that would be one of your last vehicles to deploy, unless you have intelligence that you need them out there, right? Because the other vehicles would be a lot less alarm having them deploy. There's the smaller. It's like an MRAP, but it's just the armored car or something. I forget what they call it. I think it's the Guardian. Is it the M017? It has a similar look to the Striker, but I don't think it doesn't have the same look. Like the Striker might actually present a little scarier appearance, right? Size-wise and everything else. M117 armored security vehicle. Now they were phasing those out, so you have to try to find them. They could be in foreign countries by now, but and again, we don't necessarily need the offensive weapons unless something comes up or unless you develop intelligence. So all we're actually speaking about, and this is what I said when the MRAPs were being deployed to the police departments, and I warned the police departments. I said, don't give the appearance of militarizing. And then they, have a less lot of ammunition to say that you're militarizing. All you're doing is driving a vehicle that protects you. It's like putting on your vest. That's all that is. Right. So you don't let them chicken you out of that, because that vehicle in Texas, it's just like putting a vest on. It protects you from something. It doesn't do anything to anybody else. It's not. It's like a keto. You can't. I mean, you could run people over with it, but that's any vehicle. But you can't shoot people from it unless you put the larger weapons. Which, again, unless you developed intelligence that you need it, then we just public relations wise, it makes more sense not to deploy those weapon systems initially. So the first thing you want to do is get some of these vehicles out there and let them, the talking points against it, and then you say, look, it's just putting a bullet resistant vest on, or a ballistic vest on. All it's doing is protecting our people. We can't shoot anybody with the vehicle itself. Right. Again, eventually, if you put weapons on it, then they'll bring that up. But again, then you just explain that it changed if you do get to that point. So the M117 is just a little less than the Striker. I think it's a little smaller.
But, you know, definitely the MRAP, and then I would try to find these MM17s. I imagine, I think I read something, yeah, military police. Okay, it actually started in the 1990s, they developed them for service to the United States Military Police Corps. So then these are vehicles that were designed for military police operations. And I guess they're in Strikers now. So if you have to go to Strikers, you have to go to Strikers. But it's easier if you do the MRAP and if you have M117s. You're just looking at the M117, it would, you know, without the weapon systems, it would have a lot less criticism. And again, we don't have to worry about that if we're just trying to save lives. You know, it's, again, the mission speaks for itself as long as you stay honest and do the mission. Again, you're not going to find, okay, the Marshal Service may find an undocumented person while they're looking for a fugitive, and they'll say, okay, you know, go. We're not going to do anything. Why? Because we do fugitive operations. When we're looking for the fugitive, we need to get the fugitive. And we don't have to detain an undocumented person. If I'm in ICE, I'm either going to detain that person or that person's going to help us with something, and I might say, hey, you know, we want you to give us a call in the morning, right? Or whatever it is. If I develop a relationship with that person and I think we can use that person, I might not detain them. Right? But ICE pretty much has to detain them. Most cases, we find a federal fugitive while looking for another federal fugitive, that person will be detained. I say most cases because there might be a case where we work a deal. But again, that person's not going to stay out there forever. We'll just, you know, do a self-surrender or something. Right. And again, ICE could do a self-surrender if they wanted. But again, if they come upon some people, they're going to detain them most likely. And I gave you that scenario just so you'd know it was there. And again, Homan gave you that scenario also. So again, that we just keep reiterating that type of thing, so that, you know, because they don't understand. You know, we're out there, we're ICE, we're detaining a criminal, and we find 4 other undocumented people. It's just they're going to get detained most likely. But if we do that program and get it out there, unless they can tell us something that causes us to think in other directions, like green card. So just always put that out there. You know, you don't have to every day, but so that they don't keep bringing it up. So they understand that ICE detains that type of person. If they're found, there's probably going to be a detention. That's their bread and butter. They really can't not do that. Some people could actually lose, if it got back to somebody, they could lose their job. Right? Not to say it never happened, but again, it's minimized. And again, because we're in this heightened posture, it's most likely. So essentially, what I'm saying is, Marshal Service goes in, looking for a fugitive, another fugitive out there. That person's going to tell us where that fugitive is. And that's where that fugitive is. Okay, you stay here. Smith, Deputy Smith, and Deputy Jones, you stay here with him. All right, let's go to that house. We go to the house. Oh, we got him. Yay. Okay, so what are you going to do about your warrant? Well, you got to do something with it. We just can't give. I mean, you helped us. We appreciate it. We put a word in to the U.S. Attorney and everything. Okay, yeah. Okay, you're going to self-surrender? You promise. If it's not self-surrender, we'll come in and we'll beat you up. Not really. I guess you can't say that anymore, right? You know, self-surrender, we'll come back and we'll get you. And again, you know, it would be like a probation violator versus somebody wanted for some, you know, felon in possession of a firearm, that kind of thing. You know, he missed his probation meeting or something. In fact, something like that, we might, if they tell us where the fugitive is, we could actually talk to the probation officer and the judge, and they might actually just, you know, write it off, right? Get rid of the warrant and just say, you know, make your meetings and do your PP tests. Right. Thank you, Lord. But again, what's going on now as far as ICE, it's a lot less likely that anything would go on other than detention. Again, that program is still available. That green card program is available. If we go in and we find the fugitive ICE immigrant, that has a warrant, and there's somebody else there, and that person says to one of the ICE people, "I know about sex trafficking, about prostitution, a few streets over." Oh, you do, huh? So again, that could be a green card, could be initiated. Like the process of getting a green card could be initiated. So we wouldn't, in that case, we wouldn't necessarily detain. We might detain just to get it under control and then release. Like we would actually take the person aside and we would personally walk them through the system. Right? Might keep them overnight, right? Maybe 2 days. But again, that person will be on their way to freedom probably, and a green card. And maybe they could trust the person enough to, right? It just depends. Each situation is different. Right? I mean, they could actually maybe effectuate the arrest that day, and then they would probably may have to move that person. Would actually probably have to move that person. Again, always be cognizant of that. I don't know where you all are with it, but if you're in ICE, and it could get very rough for people that help us as far as immigrants. So you have to check your funding out for that. Make sure you have funding to relocate people. It doesn't take much, right? But relocate them and get them out of that area, unless you're still going to use them in that area for something. But again, I don't know if you're having interaction with that person around other immigrants, like you do a turn up or something, or you're looking for somebody with a warrant, and the others see that person around you, you probably have to move them and protect them. And again, sometimes taking them in custody for a day or two and putting them in, sole custody. It's like not isolation, but they're in a cell by themselves and they're listed as an informant or whatever. So at that point, it gives you a couple days to get them someplace safe. It doesn't take much money, right? And you have to tell them not to return to the areas that they were in, that kind of thing. So always remember, if you're working with informants and you effectuate an arrest off of that informant, you might want to move that informant, right? Especially if it's somebody like that who just came into your view and everybody knows that person came into your view and that person had knowledge of whatever you arrest. Right? So you got to protect the people that you need to protect, and all these types of, protect the officers, protect the people on the border, protect any of the immigrants that help us. So what I would do is I would find people, agents and officers with a foreign, they don't have to be in uniform, or some could be in uniform, some could be out of uniform. You do a video series. You find officers from the African heritage, you find people of Latino heritage, maybe somebody from even Russian heritage. And you do it in different languages. You explain the green card program, so that they'll be the good cops. You even say, you flash Mr. Homan up real quick. It's much better to go this way than that way. Let me at him. You could look at WWE. But again, it's just to help everybody involved. And we really do want to find these legal operations that are sex trafficking and narcotics distribution. And always remember, as a police officer or law enforcement, anytime you come into any center, you don't know that person's story, even if you think you know that person's story. You don't know what pushed them into that. You don't know if they were pushed into it. You don't even know if they were conscripted, where they were going to be killed if they didn't do it. And you get that in the immigrant community. So you may be looking at, again, so when we're looking at Trent Aye, and you may already, I mean, you probably do, right?
You probably have some gang members that flip. But you don't know. They could have been scripted. Or, they came in as an immigrant and it just seemed like a good idea. And they never harmed anybody in their whole life and still haven't, So you go in there, they may not have harmed somebody. They're still part of a criminal organization, but you can get them to flip. And, people were put into things like I spoke about. If you psychologically analyze and socially analyze El Chapo's life, he was an abused kid. That's how it happened. If he wasn't abused kids, that never would have happened. It just shows you how many people were killed, all the drugs, all the narcotics. If El Chapo was not an abused kid, he probably would have went in a completely other different direction. And again, part of being an abused kid, and he was physically abused, but part of being an abused kid for El Chapo and these other kids in Mexico is that you're an adult and you press them into criminal service. So again, I'm with the social side of changing the tide in Mexico, but we can't do that. We can't only do that. It's the money that the cartels wield. I mean, these are like gross domestic products of foreign nations. I mean, that could, yeah, you go find, I can't. These people that did me just should be shot. Really, I mean, I can't even get money up for anything, in my life hardly at all. And we got people down in Mexico. They're supposed to be using what they're using on me, on that person, and El Mencho just walks around going $65,000 or so, $45,000 for an RPG. And he has a stockpile of them. So he's probably prepared to spend millions and millions of dollars on RPGs. So if they would have used what they used on me, El Mencho wouldn't have the money to do what he's doing. They don't care. I'm sure they're on the take. Again, people like El Mencho pay them money to do this to me. And then they act like they're a PI on some other thing. Right? Or a cop on some other thing. Usually they hire the PI, and the PI pays off the cop. It pulls the cop into the bullshit. Could be even your chief. Thank you, Larry. So again, it's a lot of it's just waiting to see where everything goes. But what we definitely need what I said. We need those light armored vehicles down there, or the lighter armored vehicles, the MRAP, the Guardian, M117. We need to move to the border so we have them down there. And again, one of the reasonings would be if they're not available, there may come a day where Border Patrol can't actually do its mission until they are available. That's why you move them down now. It'd be very simple. You just get drivers. Again, the concept I told you, there's people in the military that their job is a driver. There's military police people, their job. So you could actually get military police people that have driven those before, or you could train them up from now until then. And they'll be, you just pull them in as a driver. They take the vehicle out there, Border Patrol loads up, right, and they go about their business. But we definitely, do need armor protection just in case. And again, when it comes to, I'm about to get offline. When it comes to that vehicle, the airboats. The airboats we must plan for armored airboats. And again, I don't know if you want something that looks like the one from Nigeria. Maybe you do. Maybe it's not the right size, whatever it is. But we still need to provide that protection, because you can provide the protection and make it look like a standard, enclosed Border Patrol airboat. Right. It just depends what you want to do. I mean, anybody that knows what they're looking at would know probably what they're looking at.
But it doesn't have to be this black, dark thing. You know, it looks like a war machine. It looks like Darth Vader in airboat form. It doesn't have to look like that. Again, you might want it to look like that. But, you know, Border Patrol is full of soft-sided vehicles everywhere. Never made any sense, probably. We just never saw it. Or at least some sort of, you know, ballistic protection package. So the two key things is start looking at the boats. The airboats are, I think, the most open ones, and start figuring out how to either modify those or replace those with something with some armor protection, with some ballistic protection. Even some of the other boats need something. Some of them, all you just need is some like ballistic paneling, and then they could get up behind the ballistic paneling if they needed to. Well, you can have the ballistic paneling come up to a certain height, like I think even some of the safe boats, I don't know if the glass is just glass or it's ballistic glass. But you could do a solid, because they sell solid ballistic panels, but you probably have to back it with something. And you could just do a solid panel up to maybe halfway to 3/4 up the window. I don't know. You'd have to figure out where you could actually operate the boat comfortably. So you build like a kind of ballistic wall, you know, where the cabin is, maybe going back another few feet. Right. And then you I guess the glass would still be an issue to a certain degree. So you have to figure it out. Again, I don't think you operate the larger boats that much on that particular border. And then you do have access to a lot of naval vehicles and Coast Guard. So even if your boats lack a little bit of protection, there's other boats out there. So again, we got a plan for, like 2 or 3 levels higher than where we are. Actually, we're higher than we were. Right. So we're already up. So we got to plan a little bit higher and bring all this equipment in to use. Again, Hegseth should, if you contact Hegseth or someone in his chain, or that General Brown, that's a CQ Brown, right? So CQ Brown, he can help you too. Actually, Hegseth might want to talk to CQ Brown. So what we want to do is we want to find those vehicles, and then they should list the condition and what we need to do to get online, what they believe we need to bring online. Again, we have places like the Red River Arsenal. We can prioritize those vehicles being refurbished. There's other arsenals. Right. And then we need to look for any type of vehicular radar system. That's if they happen to have some FLIR or something that we can mount on there, forward-looking infrared, or some of the other stuff, even thermal imaging, whatever we can put on those to enhance what we see. Right. So first priority is just getting that level of defensive protection available, that if it gets bad on the border, we can just get some drivers in there, pull those things up in front of the Border Patrol station, and everybody gets on in and goes about their Border Patrol mission in that vehicle and those vehicles. And the next level is increasing our eyes and ears, which is very important. And again, that might also, we might want to, if we find excess, or not excess, but I guess excess supply of those items, we might want to put them on the border. Right? We have the military on the border. If we can increase their vision, then we want to do it. So if we have some sort of vehicle mounted forward-looking infrared, thermal imaging, whatever it is, and if it's the capability that we can use, then we fast track that to the border. And those vehicles, if we want to use those vehicles. Again, MRAP should be used as soon as possible. We'll stay peaceful. Pray